Hello, my name is Matt. I'm going to introduce myself real quick. First of all, I just want to apologize for the audio. I have a better microphone and I will get it set up soon. I just am, it's being made apparent to me that I need to get the information out first. It's more important to just post a video and worry about, the information is what's important, not the audio quality. So it will improve, I promise, if depending on how many videos I make. I might just make this one, who knows. But I'm being called to share my story and my path to spirituality. It's because it's a unique path. So there may be others like me, and I'm sure there are millions, but it's not the mainstream way of finding God or spirituality or source or whatever you call it. So I'm being called to share it because it's other people need to hear this. So I guess I'll just tell my story quick before I get to the whiteboard. Yes, there's a whiteboard, so that's how you know it's a serious video. Myself, I grew up in the Christian church. I was raised pretty much fundamentalist Christian. So I don't remember, it was before I have really solid memories, probably before I was even 2 years old. We were in the Presbyterian church, and also, just note also, I grew up in Utah, which is in the 80s. I was born in 82. So pretty much everybody except for like the people who went to my church were Mormon. So at least at that time. I know it's more diverse now, I'm sure. I was actually just out there a couple months ago, so it definitely is, but it's definitely still a very, very Mormon state. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just mentioning that I didn't grow up Mormon. I grew up alongside. So we started Presbyterian. I don't remember. At some point we switched to Assembly of God, which is like a non-denominational, more spiritual church, but it's very fundamentalist. So let me tell you, it's a very spiritual, like it's almost like gospel church, like Southern gospel, where people are, speaking in tongues, or I'm not sure the pronunciation, but glossalia. It's light language is what people call it a lot now. So that was something that happened every church, and it was very weird, especially when they're explaining it in a way that it's alongside something that's so. Okay, let me just back up, I guess. So that's how we were raised. That's how I grew up, and I always had a very high IQ. I'm not going to give you whatever, but it's very high. So it was a very, I always questioned everything, basically, and I ended up, I got straight A's. I ended up in gifted programs. I had the highest IQ in my elementary school, whatever, but it didn't feel right, and I felt that it didn't match me, so I did end up in college, before college, but I pretty much had rejected all religion by the time I was out of high school, and I was completely atheist by the time I was in college. I had, moments of like, faltering in that, but basically full on materialist atheist by the time I graduated college. I did not believe in anything spiritual. I thought maybe, I didn't think, I'll say it a different way. I didn't believe in anything magical or supernatural. I thought everything, if there was supernatural activity, that it was um, explainable by natural phenomena. It's not actually supernatural. It's just we haven't discovered that part of nature yet, or whatever. But anyways, that's not really relevant, I guess. Or let's see. But anyways, yes. So full materialist. I didn't believe there was any kind of and this is before I really learned quantum mechanics and stuff. So so that really did kind of open my mind a little bit, because I did so I have two degrees. I went to college for computer science and philosophy. So computer science is what I started, and I get interested in philosophy, which is part of my path, and I'm sure it's part of a lot of other people's paths. Um, so so I was just a straight atheist for many years, and I believe that goodness came from inside. So, and which is true, but you make your own goodness, and there is no, in my mind, there was no outside source of. There was no source. There was just the Big Bang. Just the universe just was, which I still believe, but I do believe now that there's a spiritual world, and there are forces that we can't explain, or we just. I'm still kind of in the boat of actually thinking that there is not really any such thing as supernatural. It's just not. We just haven't discovered that part of nature. But I do believe there are higher intelligences, and I do believe there is this universe was created, by an intelligent. I don't want to say being. I don't like to use the word God because it has such a connotation with it, with religion. I think it's really important to separate the idea of what religion is and what, like, say, Christianity is. They're two different things, Well, you can be a Christian without being a member of a religion, basically, if you want to call yourself. You could just say you're a follower of Christ, and say you believe in Christ's teachings, but you don't. It's basically, if you go into the history of the church, it's it's a system of control. Just like most things in modern society that are part of the establishment are just systems of control. So, um, yeah, I don't want to. I'll go a little more. I think I'll make a separate. I actually drew up some stuff to go through some of the concepts and stuff that helped me on my path. I think I'll make a separate video for that, because this is actually already getting to be almost 10 minutes long. So I'll just So philosophy is really got me interested in thinking about. So I basically proven to myself using observable facts that there is no God. It was impossible. There's just no way to justify it. And so, that's how I thought about it for a long time. And then eventually I started getting. This is long after graduation. Actually, it's probably in the last 10 years. I started getting interested. I did take some high-level physics class as part of computer science. It's basically physics for engineers. So we got into. I don't think we got into quantum physics very much at that time. It was mostly Newtonian and integrating with calculus and that kind of stuff. So yeah, getting into physics later though, I just was always interested in physics. It was not something that you. It's not easy to just learn physics, even if you're interested in it. So, but I did in the modern age. There's classes you can watch on YouTube, or I got started with the great courses. With a couple of physics classes on there, which are really great. They're awesome. They're you you can learn a lot. There's no tests, no notes. You just learn, But But if you really want to get into it, you can start taking classes at actual universities and stuff online, whatever. And a lot of them are free, or there's a lot of really great classes on YouTube. YouTube is so cool. Like, it's so cool. It's such an amazing, it's just it's an example of how you can use something, technology. Technology can be good or it can be bad. It just depends on how you use it. So, yeah, getting interested in quantum physics, learning. So I never really understood. So first I learned the relativity, special relativity, general relativity. I don't like, I'm not like, it's been so long since I've done math that I understand the concepts, but I couldn't like write an equation for, whatever, outside of like E equals MC squared, like, but, um, but the concepts, if you can find a good teacher, you don't really need to understand the math. If you know basic math, you might need to know up to geometry, algebra, like pre-calculus or whatever, but you don't need to know calculus or anything like that. You don't even need to really know those other stuff. You might need to accept a few concepts without actually seeing proofs for them or something like that, But that, all the way up to quantum, all the way up to relativity, it's all basically still Newtonian. It's just gets very weird towards the speed of light type thing, and there's a lot of unintuitive things. And then getting into relativity, that's when it's like, or into quantum physics is where it's like, well, okay, well, what the hell is the universe actually fucking made of? Like, is there anything? Is it just a hologram or whatever? Kind of, possibly, but yeah. So that kind of ignited my like, what is this? What is this? So I've been. It took a while for it to hit the spiritual path, but it started with Buddhism. Actually, long before I got spiritual with it, I always felt called to Buddhism, to, just because I knew the health benefits, the mental health benefits of meditation, and so I found a school of Buddhism that didn't really make you have to believe in, it didn't force you to believe in an actual soul that's reincarnated. You could believe that was metaphorical for, like, your matter and energy is never there. This conservation of mass and energy. There's no destroying it. Can neither be created nor destroyed. So that was my interpretation of reincarnation, is that your energy and your molecules, whatever your essence, will live forever. You may never reconstitute exactly like you are, and when your consciousness ends, you end. So there's no stream of consciousness. But that was a start down the path, and as I got more interested in looking deeper into Buddhism and different sects of Buddhism, and also, but it was really just learning about. There are so many unexplained things. Like there's literally just the mainstream science community just ignores all this. There's all this evidence for like just magic, basically. A realm of magic. People are like actually psychic. There's really statistically significant evidence for it. Or, like, for instance, the whole observer effect, like collapsing the wave function or whatever however you want to interpret that. But but yeah, that's how I got started on this path, and I've made a lot of realizations, and yeah, it's been a long process of awakening, 43 years ish, but But yeah, so this is going on 15 minutes now, so I'm going to end it here, and I will come back and kind of give a breakdown of my view of how the universe works, and maybe that'll click with someone. I'm guessing if you found this video, whether it's in a day or 6 months, it probably needed to find you. So